1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. Yup. Okay. Let's turn that down. Oh no. There. 1 2. Hello everybody. Hope you're well. This is going to be it's going out live now, but I don't expect there to be anybody on to talk to me because it was rather last minute. My broadband cable got fixed. It was pretty cool. Honest to God, I was planting some trees. Trying to do the rewilding of the garden thing. Still at that, and fucking put the spade straight through the broadband cable. I couldn't have done it. Well, I was actually putting in a little frog pond. I was making a little frog pond, and I couldn't have. It was like there was a bullseye over exactly where I put the spade. You couldn't have done it any better. It's mental. So I thought I should come out and do a quick pod. Since I'm able to be back in the world. So I want to talk to you about. We're going to talk a little bit about the election. We're not going to go. Well, I'm just going to take the piss out of the DUP. I'm not going to do much about the election right now because I'm hoping to have a political activist in with me. I'm hoping for tomorrow, and we're going to go through the results. Yeah, I think that would be better than me just sort of talking about it. Although I am going to talk about it just a little bit, and it's going to be a bit of fun. I've got some videos to play for you. Yeah. So let me just get my shit daddied up here and see where we are. Oh yeah. Did you see the video of Boris Johnson being interviewed by Susanna Reid? Oh my God. Shocking stuff. And this is who we have to control us, who runs our country. It's fucking shocking. And then what else have I been getting up to? Because I've been off all week. I haven't been streaming, podcasting. Bit of work in. Oh, I went to the studio. So a girl called Kate Nicholson, I'm sure she's a singer-songwriter here in Northern Ireland. I supported her with her album launch a few months ago, and she wrote this song, and she sort of had she says, I can just hear your voice in it, me and you duetting it, so do you want to try it? I said, yeah, fuck, sure, try it. She sent me the song, very good song it was too, I enjoyed it very much. And then, so I said, yeah, I'm up for that. So she says, right, I'm going into the studio Friday, you coming? So it was real quick, and so I went into the studio on Friday, spent a few hours, did my vocals, and it was good, yeah. I liked it. So we got a wee mix sent, and I don't know what Kate's plan for that is. I think she's just going to drop it. It's her song. She can do whatever she likes. I like the song anyway, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So we did that on Friday. It was good. And then last week, we played the Kilkenny Roots Fest on last Saturday. I don't think I've been speaking to you since then. I think I put the spade through the broadband cable shortly after that. And yeah, so it was brilliant. We played 2 gigs in the one day, which it's hard going because we're quite a, we're a high energy band. And played 2 venues. It was great. There was a lot of people came to see us. I don't know if they came. There was a few people who knew who we were. There was more than a few, and we had a lot of fun and we enjoyed it. It was great. And they're going to bring us back next year. Well, we think, and then they're going to put us on a proper stage, a proper venue. This was sort of what they call the pub trail. So they put bands in all the pubs. Have you ever been to Kilkenny? It's fucking brilliant. I've never been. I've never actually been. was fantastic. I think I'm going to go back. So yeah, so there was that. So that was good. And then so there we go. That's me up to date. So I'm going to hit this. I'm going to turn that off. Theme tune down. Cheery Bye theme tune. And so the election. So as we know, Sinn Féin came back as the biggest party, which is great. Well, maybe it's not great for you. It's good for me. I'm glad of it. I take it two different positions on it. One, I'd be glad that anybody was the biggest party over the UUP. Well, except for the TUV maybe, and I wouldn't be an N2 guy either. But fucking hell, I'd even take them. I would literally take anybody over the UP, and it's great. So, as you know, the significance of it is because we've now got a unionist, or a nationalist, as the First Minister. Now, I'm going to play you a little video here, and it was taken from the BBC, from their election coverage, and the person that I got this from, the comment, let me just get the comment up here. It's kind of interesting. Oh, where is it? There it is. And they tweeted the girl put it out and she says, "Oh my God, they said it." And this is what they said, and it's about the state of Northern Ireland itself being designed to not that this doesn't fucking happen. So check it out.
These elections are always important, you can tell. I get excited about them. They are extremely important. But most of them, let's be honest, in years to come, they'll probably merge into all of the others and we won't necessarily remember. This will not be the case. The 2022 Stormont elections will be historic. They already are historic. Why is that? Well, because as you can see here, they're still counting the votes, but we do have the first preference shares, and you can see this. Sinn Féin, a nationalist party, has topped the poll. That has never happened before in the 101-year history of Northern Ireland's existence. Northern Ireland was literally designed, its borders were designed so that wouldn't happen, so that there would be an inbuilt unionist majority. And indeed, if you top up the unionist parties, they're still on top. If you put the DUP together and you put the UUP together and you put the TUV together, a relatively new party, they still have a plurality of the votes, but the fact that you have a nationalist party coming top really does transform the political landscape in Northern Ireland, not least because, theoretically, if there is going to be an executive, Sinn Féin will have the right to nominate a First Minister. And just take another step back and consider that both in the Republic, where Sinn Féin is polling at the very top of the Irish polls, many fancy the chance of nominating the next Taoiseach. If there is going to be a First Minister in Northern Ireland, would also be Sinn Féin. The fact that Sinn Féin is in such rude health across the island of Ireland really does change things. And indeed, if you look at the United Kingdom as a whole, you have the SNP, a nationalist party, at the top of the poll in Scotland, and now Sinn Féin as well. These elections are always important.
There we go. So the point there is, he said the thing. Northern Ireland was designed, and it was sort of almost a throwaway comment, don't you think? Northern Ireland was designed so that this exact thing wouldn't happen. And I can't imagine that being said and accepted just so casually in any other part of the United Kingdom. Would you agree? Most people in the rest of the United Kingdom don't really know what goes on in Northern Ireland, what the state of the Northern Ireland, why it was set up the way it was, why it is the way it is, and it also, that in and of itself is almost, it's a telltale, it's an indicator of exactly the way people are ignorant about so many things that aren't on their own doorstep. So you and I are obviously very concerned about foreign policy, and anti-imperialism because we understand what it is and what it means and how it happens. Africa isn't poor. We'll be getting onto that in a minute. Africa isn't poor. You know, Africa, most of the countries in Africa are considered what we in the West, air quotes, open quotes, close quotes, the West, would think of as being poor. They're not poor. They've been impoverished by the same, air quotes, West. You know, these empires didn't go to Africa because they were poor. They went to those countries because they were rich. They had something that they wanted. And they weren't prepared to buy it. So, we understand the nature of imperialism in this country. There's a guy commented underneath here, he says, so hang on, you're saying English colonialists rigged the democratic system to ensure that they would stay on top? Yes, that's exactly what happened. He was being facetious there. So, you know, there's a clip here. Oh, I should have downloaded it. I'm only seeing it now, though. But did you ever see that clip from Star Trek where Data is talking to Captain Picard? I'm going to I'll save it for another time. Save that. Yep. And Data's talking to Captain Picard and he says, the Irish unification of 2024. Yeah. Jamie Bryson would go mental at that, I think. Have you been keeping a I try not to. I mean, I don't follow him. I don't like giving people like him oxygen because he is a fucking nasty little shite. And so I don't follow him on Twitter or anywhere else. I just don't need that level of fucking retardation in my life. And the boy is something wrong with him, like. You know, but that said, you know, the fact that the de facto leader of unionism, Jeffrey Donaldson, is in his fucking pocket is telling in and of itself. You and I don't think he's an idiot, but some other people obviously don't. And on the YouTube here, Thomas Clark, how you doing, brother? Thanks for joining me, man. I know this is short notice. I remember trying to grasp gerrymandering when I was a kid in the 80s. Do you know where gerrymandering came from? Governor Jerry of I think it was in New York, and he was moving the electoral map around so much, and somebody says, you've made it, there was a press conference, and they said, you've made it look like a salamander. And some journalist replied, says, more like a gerrymander. And that's where that actually comes from. So, yeah, gerrymandering, and yeah, exactly. And then the cleaning of like electoral rolls and things like that. The register, as we had to where's my bloody thing? Sorry, just looking for there it is. So I got this map. I should put it up on the screen. I will put it up on the screen, although those of you that are listening to this obviously won't see this, but you can go check it out on YouTube if you want. This is so you know this streams on YouTube, and then it goes up onto as a podcast. I'll put it up as a podcast as soon as I'm done. Undo. Map. There we go. Sorry. I'll throw this up on the screen. So I found this on Reddit. Some fucking American done this. Why, I don't know. But he did a better job than most of the official. Everything is, it's absolutely massive, so I'm just making it smaller for you. So you can get a nice breakdown. You can see there the actual breakdown of the who's and the whats and all that. So there it is up on the screen. So I'm sure you know all this, but you know, I should just go through it real quick. And I am going to go through it real quick. I'm not going to labour on this. Sinn Féin, 29% of the vote, 27 seats. No change for them, I do believe. Is that on his map? No, he hasn't put that one. So this is yeah. So they're holding about the same number of seats from the last one. The DUP, 25 seats, 21% of the vote, which was down 4 seats, I think they lost. Alliance Party, 17 seats, 13% of the vote. That's fucking fantastic. And there's a good transfer. A lot of people transferred, and in a proportional representation election, it's always about the transfers. So, you know, some parties manage their transfers really well. Apparently, the UUP are not guilty of that. Apparently, they didn't do a good job at that. And Sinn Féin did, and Alliance did. A lot, and it has to be said, a lot of people from other parties transferred to Alliance. So people that would vote for UUP would transfer down to the Alliance. People that vote for Sinn Féin would even transfer down to Alliance, which is interesting enough. There's an Alliance guy got elected in my borough of Upper Bann, my constituency of Upper Bann, a guy called Owen Tennyson. And I know why he got elected, because he's sort of active in the community and everybody knows who he is and kind of likes him. I think he's a good guy, whether you agree with his politics or not. But he's not a fucking fire-breathing lunatic. So I wonder, could I get him on for a wee chat? I bet you I could, you know, because he is a local fella. There's Tony Gervin on the YouTube. Bryson is a grifter. Yeah. The protocol grift hasn't worked, so he'll move on to something else. And he needs chaos to stay relevant or irrelevant. A shite king of Midas. Everything he touched turns to shite. Exactly. Ooh, I can't tell you who told me this, but somebody told me this during the week, and I'm sworn to secrecy. I forgot the numbers now, but he has something like, you know, he keeps bringing everybody to court. It's all paid for by the legal aid. It's all fucking paid for on legal aid. He's not, you know, which is all that's such a huge waste of money. So it's said, let me just blow this up. Unionists got 37 seats. When you break it down, so the DUP didn't do great. Well, they still got second party, and as you know, they say they're not gonna. We'll talk about that in a sec. The Unionists got 41.68% of the vote. Nationalists got 38.8% of the vote. Cross community others got 20.20% of the vote, 18 seats. So AP, Alliance Party, People Before. Now I'm just gonna maybe push back a little bit on this, because People Before Profit got 1.13% of the vote. So that would bring them up. That'd bring the national. Now, People Before Profit don't declare themselves as being nationalists. They declare themselves as being others, but they are a pro-United Ireland party. I don't know what the reason for that is. That there is a reason for it. I can't remember. That's 1.13%. So I'm going to throw it into the nationalists. So that's 1.1. I'll bring it up to 39.13, 39.21% of the vote, which brings it down to under 2% of a difference between unionists and nationalists. And then there's the AN2, who aren't on this map. I don't know what they got. SDLP. Yeah, they got 9%. Yeah, so I would sort of kick back a wee bit. I would say it's even closer than what it says on that map of 41.68% unionists versus 38.8% nationalists. I would suggest it's closer than that myself, but who knows? What am I? Who am I to say any different? So here's a little. Now, like I said, I'm just going to have a wee bit of a giggle with this. I found this video, and it was more to do with the Brexit thing. And we've watched over the past 5 years especially, how the DUP, mired in corruption, have stumbled from one political self-harm to the next. All the while, people like you and me and everybody else screaming from the fucking sidelines, going, "No, don't do it," and they keep. So here's a little video for you, again off the BBC, and it was more to I think this was sort of post-Brexit, post getting screwed after the Theresa May deal, after the Boris Johnson deal got through, and then Boris Johnson calls an election and he ends up with a 60-70 seat majority, so it doesn't need to be the DUP, so the DUP get told to fuck off basically, and that's where they've been ever since, which is just going to bring back to my point. If they don't take up their seats in Stormont, they've got no power, because it's their only seat. It's their only seat of power. They've got nothing in Westminster, and so they're going. They're going to have to take up Stormont, aren't they? Really, they probably won't, but sure, we'll see. Check this out.
It's the wrong word, Joe, because it's you have to see it in the context of 5 years of some of the absolute worst political leadership we've ever seen in any significant party. The DUP fought for Brexit, then like a car, dog chasing a car, didn't know what to do with it when it finally got it. It had no plan for how it would resolve the border issues. It voted against Theresa May's deal, which would have minimised friction between Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and then colluded to get rid of Theresa May, a very committed unionist who was mortified by the idea of an Irish sea border, to bring in this guy, like Boris Johnson, who sold them down the river. I mean, and they were told at every stage along the journey that this will happen. This is going to happen. But I mean, it will go down in history as one of the all-time worst-led political parties, ever. It's extraordinary.
And so that's the English political commentariat. They can see this. We could see, you and I could see this in real time as it happened as well. No one could understand what they were doing, right? Like, what the fuck is it I thought, for a period, I thought they're going to pull some rabbit out of a hat here. Some miraculous thing's going to, they know something we don't. You would think that, wouldn't you? They know something we don't. They must know something we don't. No. It was as fucking stupid as it appeared. Staggering. Go and listen to that again.
It's the wrong word, Joe, because it's you have to see it in the context of 5 years of some of the absolute worst political leadership we've ever seen in any significant party. The DUP fought for Brexit, then like a car, dog chasing a car, didn't know what to do with it when it finally got it. It had no plan for how it would resolve the border issues. It voted against Theresa May's deal, which would have minimised friction between Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and then colluded to get rid of Theresa May, a very committed unionist who was mortified by the idea of an Irish sea border, to bring in this guy, like Boris Johnson, who sold them down the river. I mean, and they were told at every stage along the journey that this will happen. This is going to happen. But I mean, it will go down in history as one of the all-time worst-led political parties, ever. It's extraordinary. It's the wrong word, Joe, because it's
So, that his level of incredulity, we all share that. We all have that. We can't understand it. And this is why, so now we're sitting in a place where the DUP are still the second biggest party in the north of Ireland. So let's not underplay what it is that's happened. They're not the biggest party in Northern Ireland, right? They're not the biggest party in Northern Ireland. We know that, but they're still the second biggest. But they can't. They're so inherently bigoted that they can't. Except, as I showed you that video right at the very beginning, what was it? What was the video? Shit. So the guy said it at the election map that the Northern Ireland was set up as a state in order to make sure that a nationalist or Republican for sure was never going to be the most popular party. It was always going to be a unionist majority. So this terribly led party is moaning of two things. One, that they're not the biggest party, and two, that they want to be the first minister, which is, as you and I know, it's a joint position. First minister and deputy first minister. Okay, my computer is about to go down. Okay. Fuck's sake. Okay. Stream went down. Yeah. Okay. The DUP are in charge of my internet. Yep. Yeah, Tony. Yeah, thank you, man. No, it's the fucking computer now. I have to buy another computer. I'm actually in the process of buying a new computer. So, yeah, my stream went down in the middle of it there. The computer does this weird thing where things stop working and then boom, it just restarts. I'm telling you, man, you see this? Yeah, thanks. Oh, yeah, I'm back here. I'm all back on. I think it'll be okay now to the end of the stream. It's really fucking weird. I don't know what it is. I googled it, and apparently it's something to do with the computer not liking something that's plugged into it. What the fuck do I know? So I'm actually in the process of buying a new computer. Demo, good to have you on board, my friend. Demo says, drawn up a border after partition, ended up with the border going through people's gardens, church grounds, even houses to ensure a Protestant majority. Yeah, exactly. And the DUP constantly claiming that Alliance are closet nationalists. Well, I'm going to play a video about that. So just check it out. Here's Sammy Wilson. These guys get so fucking red. I don't honestly. Check this out.
Going to go back with fewer seats. In fact, the DUP has lost seats to other parties. There's been a rise in the middle, in the centre ground of the Alliance Party. So it's not other unionist parties necessarily that have taken those seats off you at all. So perhaps your criticism is misdirected.
Well, first of all, and I know the BBC like to perpetuate this myth that the Alliance Party are a centre party and in the middle ground. Again. The Alliance Party, and most of the major decisions which are made in councils now and in the Assembly, side with Sinn Féin. They're not a neutral party at all, and in fact they work more with Sinn Féin than they do with unionists, though they try and con votes out of the unionist community and out of unionist voters. They can't even say where they stand on the union.
Sammy, on issues of well, here's a fact for you. I suspect that the Alliance Party would disagree with your interpretation
I suspect
of that.
They would, but it's still true.
Okay, well, you think it's true, but here's a fact for you. In terms of commemorating the centenary of Northern Ireland, as I recall it, the Alliance Party was quite supportive of moves that unionism wanted to make to do that, and was critical, in particular, of Sinn Féin for not agreeing to certain events over the past 12 months.
Mark, I think that if you look at the muted criticism that there was of Sinn Féin by the Alliance Party over both the centenary of Northern Ireland and the Queen's Platinum Jubilee, you'll find that they weren't all that anxious to take on Sinn Féin in that fight. And of course they have also supported Sinn Féin in the pursuit of the Irish language.
Well, I recall very clearly, Sammy. The Alliance Party was critical of Sinn Féin in City Hall in Belfast and critical of Sinn Féin at the Assembly. I'm going to talk to David Ford very briefly about this.
Don't forget the Alliance Party are the ones who sided with Sinn Féin to take the flag from City Hall.
That's a separate issue. We're not going back to the flags debate.
Jesus wept. So that's what you do. So, it's just professional victim, isn't it? It's just full-time egregiating egregious finder of fucking minuscule. What did Marx call it? That would be wrong actually. They're just assholes. Oh, I don't know. Tony Gervin on YouTube says a lot as well when they kept Wilson and Junior locked in the basement until the votes. Oh, that's a good fucking point actually. That's very interesting, Tony. I didn't actually notice that myself. So Tony on the YouTube here is saying it says a lot that they kept Sammy Wilson and Ian Jr. locked in the basement until the votes closed. That's fucking true. You didn't see much of them. That's a great point, man. Great point. So yeah. So my last little, I'm going to throw this up about the election. As I said, I'm just skimming over this because I'm hoping to talk with actually a Sinn Féin party activist about, and a wee breakdown. We'll get a wee breakdown of his opinion on the election. So hopefully that's going to happen tomorrow, but we'll see. So here's the last little one with Colm Eastwood.
Well, Jeffrey said quite a lot there. The reality is Jeffrey's waiting on Boris Johnson to ride over the hill and save him. Ask everybody else who ever trusted Boris Johnson in his life how that ended up. Jeffrey wants to make this election about the union. This election is not about the colour of people's passports in their pockets. It's about us needing to get round the table and get money into their pockets because they're starving, they can't turn their heating on. That's the real issue that are faced. And you must be hearing it, Jeffrey. You must be hearing the same thing that I'm hearing on the doors. And they don't care about protocols or positions at Stormont. They want money in their pockets because they're really struggling out there.
That is simply not true.
It is true, Jeffrey.
And I'm sorry, but it's not. I am talking to many people, and for them, they are concerned.
The people at those rallies you're going to, Jeffrey, might be concerned, but ordinary people are not concerned about it.
The protocol is driving up. The protocol.
Yeah. So Colm Eastwood actually said something that I thought was interesting as well. I think I may probably agree with what he said. He said when he was being asked about it was earlier on in the counts when the SDLP were sitting on like 2 votes or 2 seats, and he said something along the lines of a lot of people would have voted for Sinn Féin as well because they would have been disgusted at the way the DUP were saying that even if Sinn Féin win, which according to the polls they were always going to, that they wouldn't sign up to the executive and they would stop them from being the First Minister. And a lot of people would have been disgusted by that, and I think that's kind of true. I kind of suspect that there's an element of truth to that. A lot of people went, oh, is that a fact? Fuck you, you know what I mean? Over onto the YouTubes here, Damo says, one man banned Jim Allister calling Alliance crypto nationalists after his last hope of a TUV mate to join him. To raids against the political machine crashed and burned. Absolutely. Sammy and Junior sent it to Chippy. Absolutely. And the DUP hearing what they want to hear, no an echo chamber. And that's a problem, isn't it? It's a problem, first of all. We must all try not to do that. Try not to be like, I have followed and unfollowed Jamie Bryson about 10 fucking times, and I can't do it anymore. And the reason that I follow him, or Moore Holmes and all these other people, is because I don't want to be in my own echo chamber, just as Damo pointed out on the YouTube. And I think it's important not to do that. But sometimes they're just so fucking bad. Well, not some. Well, Bryson is all the time. It's just you going. You know what? I'm not giving this cunt the oxygen of publicity. So, right, I'm gonna. There's a. No, I'm not going to read that. I got a great article here by Tim Kaine on his website, and it's called "How Nolan and the BBC Have Distorted Our Democracy." So I'll save that for the next time. We'll move on to why was Gaddafi killed? Coming now. So, here we go. Yeah, so the reason that I brought this up was actually John McKeever sent me a couple of things, and it got me thinking as well, because we see this so often. This is just basic imperialist stuff, right? And I'm going to play you a video towards the end. At the end of this, I'm going to read this article for you. And you're not going to like who the messenger is, but you have to agree with the guy. We'll get there, don't worry about it. So this came up on, so John sent me a message a while ago about this very thing, and then this came up, and I follow this Twitter thread called Africa Archives, and it says here, leaked Hillary Clinton emails revealed NATO killed Gaddafi to stop the formation of the United States of Africa. So we kind of know that was a part of his plans. So, of 3,000 emails released from the Hillary Clinton's private email server in late December of 2015, about a third were from her close confidant, Sidney Blumenthal. One of these emails dated April 2nd, 2011. Gaddafi's government holds 143 tons of gold and a similar amount in silver. This gold was accumulated prior to the current rebellion and was intended to be used to establish a pan-African currency based on the Libyan gold dinar. This plan was designed to provide the francophone African countries with an alternative to the French franc. In a source comment, the original declassified email added, according to knowledgeable individuals, this quantity of gold and silver is valued at more than $7 billion. French intelligence officers discovered this plan shortly after the current rebellion began, and this was one of the factors that influenced President Nicolas Sarkozy's decision to commit France to the attack on Libya. According to these individuals, Sarkozy's plans are driven by the following issues: a desire to gain greater share of Libyan oil production. 2. Increase French influence in North Africa. 3. Improve his internal political situation in France. 4. Provide the French military with an opportunity to reassert its position in the world. 5. Address the concern of his advisors over Gaddafi's long-term plans to supplant France as the dominant power in Francophone Africa. Conspicuously absent is the mention of any humanitarian concerns. The objectives were to get rid of the unification of Africa, money, power and oil. So, I'm going back to the YouTube here. Demo said Joe Brawley schooled Bryson on Bryson's own podcast, told him what it was like to actually live through the height of the Troubles. And they laughed his arse off. I didn't know Bryson had a fucking podcast. Oh, Demo, get me a link, mate. Get me a link to that, would you? I have to hear that. Oh, I have to hear that. Jesus Christ. Thank God for you guys. You send me so much good stuff. So, this is from another, and the reason that so I bring this up for different reasons. We understand what's happening in Ukraine at the minute, right? We know that it's just not as honest as it's being it's not honest, and the poor people of Ukraine are going to be the ones to pay with their very life's blood. But the same people that are telling us about what's going on in Ukraine are the same people that did this. And also, by the way, did you know that the Americans have basically emptied the coffers of the Afghanistan government? They have no money. There's going to be a famine in Afghanistan. They're actually in it's starting now. The Americans just took their gold. That was it. And the reason they took their gold was because Al Qaeda is the government, right? So here's a quick article from The Ecologist. A brief visit of then Secretary of State Hillary Clinton to Libya in October 2011 was referred to by the media as a victory lap. We came, we saw, he died, she crowed in a CBS video interview on hearing the capture of the brutal murder of Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi. What a fucking monster. What a fucking monster. Imagine saying that about a human being. But the victory lap, and then Madeleine Albright, who is this great celebrated Democratic politician, she died there a few months ago, and she was asked about the 500,000 dead Iraqi children, and was it worth it? And she said yes. She says there's a video of her saying it. She's interviewed on stage saying it. It's unbelievable. That's who these ghouls are. But the victory lap writes, Scott Shane and Joe Backer in the New York Times was premature. Libya was relegated to the back burner by the State Department as the country devolved into chaos, leading to a civil war that would destabilise the region, fueling the refugee crisis in Europe and allowing the Islamic State to establish a Libyan haven that the United States is now desperately trying to contain. US NATO intervention, never ends well. And you see that phrase, US NATO intervention, you know it's the shit's about to hit the fan, was allegedly undertaken on humanitarian grounds. But we know from the emails, right, Sarkozy, there was no humanitarian, I just read you those 5 points. There was no humanitarianism mentioned. After reports of mass atrocities, but human rights organisations questioned the claims after finding a lack of evidence. Today, however, verifiable atrocities are occurring. So, this is the standard playbook. US NATO intervention on humanitarian grounds. Syria. Bashar al-Assad is bombing his own people. He's gassing his own people. When he's winning the war, he's going to gas his own people. The one thing that Barack Obama said would draw the US into the conflict, and he's going to do it when he's winning. Of course, it didn't fucking happen. Same in Iraq, same in Libya. The first Iraq war, the throwing babies out of incubators, all that shit. So what we're saying is, although the claims are questionable due to a lack of evidence, however, verifiable atrocities are occurring today after the so-called air quotes intervention. Stan Kovalek wrote in Huffington Post, the human rights situation in Libya is a disaster, as thousands of detainees, including children, languish in prisons without proper judicial review. Kidnappings and targeted killings are rampant. Before 2011, now listen to this. This is before Gaddafi was murdered. And by the way, no one's saying Gaddafi was a nice guy, right? So just before 2011, Libya had achieved economic independence with its own water, its own food, its own oil, its own money, its own state-owned bank. It had arisen under Gaddafi from one of the poorest countries to the richest in Africa. I wonder why the US would want to, and France and NATO would want to destroy it. Education and medical treatment were free. Having a home was considered a human right. The Libyans participated in an original system of local democracy. Let me just click, that's a link. The People's General Committee, it's called, often abbreviated as the GPCO, was the executive branch of the government of Libya during the existence of Muammar Gaddafi's Libyan Arab Jamahiriya. I can't even pronounce it. It served as an intermediary between the masses and the government leadership, and was composed of a Secretary General and 20 secretaries. That sounds much like the CCP. The Chinese Communist Party is set up. Sounds very similar. So, they had their own form of democracy. It wasn't our democracy, which is imperfect, which is not perfect by a long fucking chalk. So, onwards. I'm getting distracted. The country boasted from the world's largest irrigation system, the Great Man-Made River Project, which brought water from the desert to the cities and coastal areas, and Gaddafi was embarking on a program to spread this model throughout Africa. But that was before the US NATO forces bombed the irrigation system and wreaked havoc on the country. Today the situation is so dire that President Obama, this was written in 2016, has asked his advisors to draw up options including new military front in Libya, and the Defence Department is reportedly standing ready with a full spectrum of military operations required. Why is that their only answer to every fucking problem? All they do is throw bombs at things. That's it. There's a problem. Throw some fucking bombs at it. It doesn't make. There are other. It's what we're doing. It's what's going on in Ukraine. The American government has signed off on $33 billion worth of fucking military aid. Military aid is an oxymoron if ever there was one. It doesn't aid anything. It makes everything worse. $33 billion in American military aid. Why is it their only answer to every fucking question? It's insane. The Secretary of State's victory lap was indeed premature. In fact, check out Claire Daly, what she says about it. I agree with her every word she said when she gave off in the European Parliament just a few weeks ago. The Secretary of State's victory lap was indeed premature if what we're talking about is the officially stated goal of humanitarian intervention. But her newly released emails, remember the emails that Trump kept going on about in the election, her emails, reveal another agenda behind the Libyan war. And this one, it seems, was achieved. Mission accomplished. Of the 3,000 emails released from Hillary Clinton's private email server in late December 2015, about a third were from her close confidant Sidney Blumenthal. Well, I've already read that out. So I'll read out Nicolas Sarkozy's decision to commit France to the attack on Libya. So that remember the 5 reasons: a desire to gain greater share of Libyan oil production, increase French influence in North Africa, improve his internal political situation in France, provide the French military with an opportunity to reassert its position in the world, and 5, address the concern of his advisors over Gaddafi's long-term plans to supplant France as a dominant power in Francophone Africa. Conspicuously absent is any mention of humanitarian concerns, objectives, and money, power, and oil. Right. Gaddafi's threatened attempt to establish an independent African currency, and this is what the thing is, right? We now know that Russia and China are working on a new alternative to the petrodollar, right? Saudi Arabia has agreed to sell oil in Russian ruble and Chinese yuan. President Lula of Brazil, just the other day, has said he wants to set up an alternative to the American petrodollar with other African countries and other South American countries. He said, well, not President Lula, he's actually running for to be President Lula, who was jailed by the current right-wing fascist president. Can't remember his name. He said something similar to this, which means that the CIA are probably going to murder him. So this is happening, people, and the reason that this is happening in multiple in multiple places around the world is because the current regimes, the US and whatever, are untrustworthy. There's not a document they would sign that's worth the paper it's written on. Gaddafi was their mate for so many years. Saddam Hussein was their mate for so many years. In fact, they put Saddam Hussein in power in the first place, and he was talking about doing the same thing. So Gaddafi's threatened attempt to establish an independent African currency was not taken lightly by Western interests. In 2011, Sarkozy reportedly called the Libyan leader a threat to the financial security of the world. How could this tiny country of 6 million people pose such a threat? Very good question. First, some background. It is banks, not governments, that create most of the money in Western economies, as the Bank of England recently acknowledged. This has been going on for centuries, though the process called fractional reserve lending. Originally, the reserves were in gold. In 1933, President Roosevelt, we spoke about this on this podcast, President Roosevelt replaced gold domestically with central bank created reserves, but gold remained the reserve currency internationally. 1944, the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank were created in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire, to unify this bank-created money system globally, and IMF ruling said that no paper money could have gold backing. A money supply created privately as debt at interest requires a continual supply of debtors, and over the next half century, most developing countries wound up in debt to the IMF. The loans came with strings attached, including structural adjustments, policies involving austerity measures and privatisation of public assets. After 1944, the US dollar traded interchangeably with gold as the global reserve currency. When the US was no longer able to maintain the gold's backing in the 70s, it made a deal with OPEC to back the dollar with oil, creating the petrodollar. Oil would be sold only in US dollars, which would be deposited in Wall Street and other international banks. In 2001, dissatisfied with the shrinking value of the dollar that OPEC was getting for its oil, Iraq's Saddam Hussein broke the pact and sold oil in euros. What happened next? I wonder. Regime change swiftly followed, accompanied by widespread destruction of the country. In Libya, Gaddafi also broke the pact, but he did more than just sell his oil in another currency, as his developments are detailed by the blogger Denise Ryan. For decades, Libya and other African countries had been attempting to create a pan-African gold standard. Libya's al-Gaddafi and other heads of African states had wanted an independent pan-African hard currency. Under Gaddafi's leadership, African nations had convened at least twice for monetary unification talks. The countries discussed the possibility of using the Libyan dinar and the silver dirham as the only possible money to buy African oil. Until the recent US NATO invasion, the gold dinar was issued by the Central Bank of Libya. The Libyan bank was 100% state-owned and independent. Foreigners had to go through the CBL, the Central Bank of Libya, to do business with Libya. The Central Bank of Libya issued the dinar using the country's 143.8 tons of gold. Libya's Gaddafi and the African Union 2009 chairman conceived and financed a plan to unify the sovereign states of Africa with one gold currency, United States of Africa. In 2004, a Pan-African Parliament, 53 nations, led plans for the African Economic Community with a single gold currency by 2023. So they had fucking plans, man, and they were bombing ahead with them. African oil producing nations were planning to abandon the petrodollar and demand gold payments for oil and gas. And to bring us right up to date, what's going on in Ukraine, a big part of what's going on, I think this is to flood the country with arms and weaponry, to provide a bonanza to the military-industrial complex, and to stop Russia providing gas and oil to Europe, and to get the American oil producers that they can take that market, which they've done. Gaddafi had done more than organise an African monetary coup. He had demonstrated that financial independence could be achieved. His greatest infrastructure project, the Great Man-Made River, was turning arid regions into a breadbasket for Libya, and the $33 billion project was being funded interest-free without foreign debt through Libya's own state-owned bank, so the IMF weren't getting their pound of flesh, right? That could explain why this critical piece of infrastructure was destroyed in 2011. So in the name of humanitarianism, you're going to destroy these people's source of water. NATO not only bombed the pipeline, but finished off the project by bombing the factory producing the pipes necessary to repair it. crippling a civilian irrigation system serving up to 70% of the population hardly looks like humanitarian intervention. Rather, as Canadian professor Maximilian Forte put it in his heavily researched book Slouching Towards Sirte, NATO's War in Libya and Africa, the goal of the US military intervention was to disrupt an emerging pattern of independence and a network of collaboration within Africa. Divide and conquer, right? This is what the empires do. We know this. That would facilitate increased African self-reliance. This is at odds with the geostrategic and political economic ambitions of extra-continental European powers, namely the US. So on to the last paragraph. Mystery solved. Hillary Clinton's emails shed light on another enigma remarked on by early commentators. Why, within weeks of initiating fighting, did the rebels set up their own central bank? Robert Wenzel wrote in the Economic Policy Journal in 2011. This suggests we have a bit more than a ragtag bunch of rebels running around, and that there are some pretty sophisticated influence. I have never before heard of a central bank being created in just a matter of weeks out of a popular uprising. It was all highly suspicious, as Alex Newman concluded in a November 2011 article. Whether salvaging central banking and a corrupt global monetary system were truly among the reasons for Gaddafi's overthrow may never be known for certain, at least not publicly. Aye, sure, that's what it was. There the matter would have remained suspicious but unverified, like so many stories of fraud and corruption, but for the publication of Hillary Clinton's emails after an FBI probe. They add substantial weight to Newman's suspicion. Violent intervention was not chiefly about the security of the people. It was about the security of global banking, money and oil. That's it. That's what happened. So do you understand? Syria, there was a gas pipeline being built through Syria. The Russians were building it. Nord Stream 2, providing gas and oil to Europe. Nope, not happening. The pullout of Afghanistan, almost instant, overnight. That was it. Boom! The commander, the Afghani commander of Bagram Air Base turned up for work, and there was no one there. Literally, didn't even get a courtesy call. Why was that allowed to happen? Why did Trump talked about doing it and wasn't allowed to do it? Why? Because he was going to stop that war, and that was that. He wasn't going to start another one. Biden knew that they had Ukraine teed up, and they were going to get the double, triple bonus of putting Russia under sanctions and under pressure, and hopefully bleed them like they did successfully in Afghanistan 2 or 3 decades earlier. And they were also going to get to flood the Ukraine with weaponry and the bonanza for the US oil and gas interests. Now, it hasn't worked out, because now there is another threat to the petrodollar coming from China and Russia. As I said, Lula of Brazil, and Brazil is one of the biggest countries, biggest economies in the world, is talking about the same thing. If he gets elected, well, and it sounds like a very good, talking like that sounds like you want the CIA to shoot you. So, yeah, so there we go. Listen, I'm going to give the last word. I told you this at the start of this article. I'm going to give the last word to someone. You're not going to like it, right? You're not going to like it. You don't like this person, but you're going to have to hear it. Is even a broken clock is right twice a day.
But you also recently said that the Middle East would be better off with Gaddafi, Saddam Hussein, and Assad in power. How does...
I didn't say Assad, but we certainly have not gained anything with Gaddafi. And you look at what happened. I mean, look at Libya. Look at Iraq. Iraq used to be no terrorists. He would kill the terrorists immediately. It was like, now it's the Harvard of terrorism? Iraq. If you look at Iraq from years ago, I'm not saying he was a nice guy, he was a horrible guy, but it was a lot better than it is right now. Right now, Iraq is a training ground for terrorists. Right now, Libya, nobody even knows Libya. Frankly, there is no Iraq and there is no Libya. It's all broken up. They have no control. Nobody knows what's going on.
The world would be better off with Saddam Hussein
100%.
and Gaddafi in power?
100%. Now, as far as Assad is concerned,
what about the human rights abuses?
Let's talk about, well, you don't think they're happening now? They're worse now than they ever were. People are getting their heads chopped off. They're being drowned. Right now, they're far worse than they were ever under Saddam Hussein or Gaddafi. I mean, look what happened. Libya's a catastrophe. You look at our ambassador as an example, okay? Libya is a disaster. Iraq is a disaster. Syria is a disaster. The whole Middle East. And it all blew up around Hillary Clinton and around Barack Obama. It all blew up. Now, one thing about Assad, not a good guy. I understand that. But we're backing and spending billions and billions of dollars on backing rebels that we have no idea who they are. And a lot of people think they're ISIS. I happen to think they're ISIS, but who knows? But we're spending billions of dollars to get Assad out with people that we have no idea who they are. I don't think that's smart. We have to rebuild our country. Our country's falling to pieces. We have 19 trillion in debt. We have infrastructure that's a disaster. Our roadways, our airports, our schools, everything. We have to start thinking about ourselves. We're pouring trillions of dollars into the Middle East, and we have nothing for it. We have nothing.
But you also recently said that the Middle East would be better off.